Hey, what's up everybody? Frank Valkyria, welcome to the channel. Today we're talking Loki. Yes, Loki, not Toki. Also, Toki is a character. If you don't know Toki, Feast of the North Star, Okuto no Ken, Kenshiro, known by many names. Very popular TV series animated. Some of you might even know it. Anyway, we're talking about Loki, so spoilers ahead just in case. I said spoilers ahead just in case twice. All right. First thing first, I enjoyed it very much. The episode starts off basically 2012, where we get the branch skewing from the normal timeline. I already have so many questions. Who are those three whatever creatures which they decide that there must be one sacred timeline? This is the convoluted nature of those comics. There are always entities here and there and there and in between, and for whatever reason the power shift in degrees on the spectrum. Like those dudes are there, they decide to be there. The timelines were fighting before against each other. Who knows for how long? For how long all those timelines were fighting one another? And why were they fighting? Couldn't they just exist without Then we needed those three dudes to come in and go like, hey, you know what? We're gonna fix this. Only one. That's it. Then in a very dystopian manner, we're gonna fight anything that is gonna divert from that, and we're gonna kill everyone. Okay? That's it. We're gonna put Clarks in offices from the 70s because, and that's where they're gonna be for the infinite. We see Loki getting in there in this crazy, mad, bureaucratic 70s look of, seems like almost Eastern Germany of before the Berlin Wall fell. It's very interesting, of course, the choices of colors, because usually those were the colors used in furniture and interior designing of that era, I guess between 60s and 70s, late 60s and early 70s. So actually the grandmother of my best friend had that kind of kitchen, which was actually super awesome because it was always full of food and we enjoyed it very much. And she also called me the devil. We cannot disclose the rest or why. So we got Loki right here. Loki that does not know his timeline, the real timeline of his life, because he's a deviant. He's a new Loki. He's not aware that his mother's gonna die, and he was the reason because his mother died, and also that he causes Ragnarok, and then he died at the end of Thanos. So he doesn't know that yet. Then we got Mobius, this kind of whatever cop, reminds me a little bit of those movies from the 80s or TV series where there's always this kind of cool cop, like a sidekick or whatever, just doing his cool job of going in France. We see here in this episode checking who other deviant it's causing chaos in the timeline, in the sacred timeline, and they're trying to chase him, but he's always ahead of the game. So at the end, they think they see Loki, this new Loki coming in at the TVA, this organization, as a possibility perhaps to get help by the god of mischief. So the thing that I find interesting here was, first of all, like I said, who the heck decides that the TV has to exist? Nobody of the other creatures, the Eternal or whatever other entity, they have nothing to say about this. I'm like, hey, I'm not okay with this. And also that the movie reminds me of two things. The bureaucracy reminds me of a scene, I think, from a Jupiter Ascending, if I remember correctly, from the Wachowski sisters, where you have this scene where they're just going building by building, floor by floor, trying to get something done of getting a permission, and they have to go through the absurdity of bureaucracy of this planet. And also the part of the movie where actually Loki watches himself on a 35 millimeter, the linear part of his life, the real and only part of his existence, the one that it's supposed to happen, reminded me of this indie movie from Japan I think I watched it like, I don't know, almost 20 years ago. And the movie, if I remember correctly, was called Afterlife, and it takes place in the in-between. This in-between also, it's sort of depicted as sort of a school place where people are coming in the beginning you don't know. Also spoilers for this movie if you've never watched it. So that you got those people coming in, and then you have people working at this school, which their role is to guide those basically souls coming in, and they put them in rooms and they give them a VHS recorder, and then they give them all the VHS tapes of their lives, so they can go through their entire life of memory watching themselves. And the purpose for that is that once they find the best memory of their life, they basically, the people working at school, they recreate that story, and they leave the person into their memory forever. It's like the most joyful moment of their existence. So it's actually a kind of cool movie, and reminded me a little bit of that when I watched the Loki watching himself, that realizes he's not going to be the victorious. He actually, his destiny, like Mobius says, always going to end up like that. The mother is always going to die, and he's always going to die, and that's the only reality that is allowed to in their way. So Loki realizes that. They probably thinks like, you know what, I don't want to go back. And then the whole explanation of the first episode that might feels also a little bit long, because we are a little bit inside, claustrophobic, all those office, all this bureaucracy and the lines and all the whatever, and all the clerks which they don't know what a fish is. God damn it. They have all the knowledge, they have all the Infinity Stone, copy carbons, whatever, which they snatched from all those deviants, which they stole the time stones to create the deviation, and then they probably cut the branch, and those people in the office, they're left with Infinity Stones. What is this place that those stones don't work anymore? What kind of power has this weird office, huh? So a lot of questions there, and of course, who is versed in the canon of the comics, of course, probably can explain all of this. I can only go by, honestly, by what I know from the movies I watched. I have absolutely no clue about the entirety of the Marvel comics, all the 50, 60, 70 years or so of producing who knows how many stories. And of course, it's also the nature of stories. I think they get convoluted because you gotta create stories. You gotta create stuff, so it gets more and more complicated with all kinds of whatever weirder and weirder and weirder stories going on. I even read somewhere that there are also stories where actually the DC universe and the Marvel universe might cross over sometime, if I remember correctly. I watched a video. So this series did a good job explaining, setting up everything more or less in this first episode, where we get a lot of explanation and not a lot of action in that way. So I assume that the next episode we're gonna get a little bit more action, a little bit more outside, a little bit more Loki going places, which is the thing that actually entices me the most. We learn that the TVA wants him to help them basically find another version of him, which we also then have to speculate how many version of many Lokis can be in this, in this place. Did he create many deviants? Is there a number of limited deviants that can be created, or they're just chasing several Lokis? So this is also something that honestly I don't know. We don't know yet. We will see what happens, but it will also be interesting to see if this predetermination of this timeline, like I said, those dudes decide this sacred timeline, the TVA fight to keep everything in order, basically, like some kind of dystopian time cop police, huh? Maybe even Jean-Claude Van Damme is going to show up somewhere, and so that everything is going to end up like this, linear, perfect. Be nice just to see that perhaps things get messed up, and maybe even the TVA gets like disbanded or something, or changes a little bit direction, upgrades a little bit. There are like better tablets and stuff even already in 2012, instead of those strange analog looking stuff. So it will be interesting to see if the kind of predestination mentality, both of the story of the TVA will be turned upside down by this Loki, that perhaps by trying to save his mother or trying to save his story that he doesn't like for sure, because he sees he's gonna die at the end of Thanos. So perhaps he's gonna try to create a branch reality, you know, another timeline. So it'll be interesting to see if he succeeds in that or not. So I hope he does. It will be much more interesting than, you know, to create all the chaos just to reaffirm that the normal timeline, it's what it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? Because of course I think there are also some philosophical implications there. I believe that should personally, I think like it's much more natural a world where there are infinite timelines than just one sacred ones, and infinite realities or infinite universe, you know, parallel universe, than just one, and that's it. So anyway, guys, very nice. I'm super excited about this TV series. I look forward to the next episode. And yeah, if I miss something, this is all unscripted, just on bam, 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 bam. I'll see you later. You take care of yourself. Ciao.